Hi, I'm Chris from AirWindows, and I'm here today to try to show you the latest version of a plugin that I've called ADClip. This is ADClip version 4, and it looks kind of like this. Yeah, not very exciting perhaps, but the deal is this is one of my faceless plugins. This is a clipper plugin, and it will stop you getting overs, like I can demonstrate by, for instance, I've got some white noise going on there, and if I bypass, you can easily get clip going on. But if you turn it in, it prevents you from getting the clip. As you can see, the little red the meter here will show you whether it clips or not. And as you can see, that prevented the clips. In fact, I can even pull out another kind of meter while I'm at it. This is 32-bit only, so I'm kind of stuck here, but this is SSL's meter. And using this one, I can easily demonstrate that you can get it to clip very easily. I'm sorry about that. It is a clipping demonstration, so go figure. But all you have to do is turn ADClip on. Worst you can do is put in the analog clipping by actually slamming the crap out of it. We'll remove that because it's 32-bit. It might try to crash logic or something. I don't want that. Now let me kill that hiss there. You might ask, why are you inflicting loud hiss upon your poor hapless viewers and potential buyers of this plugin? I'll tell you why. Because this is using a similar mechanism to another plugin that I've got called vinyl. And the reason I'm demonstrating it using this is because the first version of the most recent version of ADClip, I'm doing a thing inside it where I'm applying anti-aliasing to the distortion products of the clipping. I'm doing this to soften the edges so that it has a less hard, harsh sound when you go into clipping. Thing is, though, what was happening was I was applying that and it was getting in the way of the plugin being able to bypass itself. This plugin is supposed to pass through totally untouched data. And instead, what you got was, well, let me see how I can show you. We got this. It was nice sounding, but the thing is, it may be an analog simulation, but that still doesn't mean that you want to whack everything up near the Nyquist range. And it let that happen entirely too easily. So what I have done is gone in and applied a behavior similar to what I've got in vinyl. Now vinyl is a different plugin. It is a low frequency summing and enhancing plugin primarily, but it also includes a high frequency limiter. And if you watch what we're doing over here on this area, as it goes up like that, you will see that with vinyl, it starts to flatten out as you push the highs, and I'm using white noise as an example for highs. And you push them harder and harder until it actually rounds off and goes down. I may be muting this because this is not very musical. The thing about ADClip is that it's using the same technique on the simulated analog behavior of the distortion. It should only be going into the distortion if you're actually clipping. So what it's doing is it's engaging that going in and coming out like a safety factor a little bit before clipping on a sufficiently high frequency information. So I'll push the level up now, and what we'll get is starts to flatten out. If I really crank it, with this one you're still getting loads of extreme highs if you want them, but it's capable of softening that, and it's not actually, it's capable of working with 2-vinyl. Like if you're using 2-vinyl, then ADClip will never kick into that range. But if you're not using 2-vinyl, which is a kind of a specialized plugin, not everybody's going to want to include that in their workflow, ADClip is now not only a safety clipper, but it is also a high frequency restrictor as well, as if you were running into analog gear that had slew rate limitations. And this helps get you a warmer sound, because the interesting thing to bear in mind now is this is a kind of loudnating plugin, but this is the post-loudnating era. This is the era of replay gain. Bob Katz has made a big fuss about how the loudness war is now over in Apple One. Apple One by causing, I think it's iTunes Radio or something like that, to default to replay gain, meaning that people who overload their audio trying to make it louder than everybody else, all that's going to happen is you're going to be turned down. For that reason, there is not so much use for really complicated and elaborate super loudness maximizing plugins, but that's not to say that ADClip doesn't still have uses. It works as a safety clipper, and it also you can use it to control and maximize the impact of dynamic elements that you want to be as loud as you can, but won't necessarily fill up lots of space. And as such, it still retains usefulness. You can go by the sound of things rather than simply going by trying to get the bulk of the music as loud as possible. And I have a little example that I can demonstrate as far as that kind of thing is concerned. You just check and make sure, yep, I've got ADClip, I've got span. Rather than just hiss and white noise, we can listen to some music of a sort. As you can hear, this is sort of a dubsteppy, snarly synthesizer and some low bass and a drum kit. And the drum kit is a uncompressed and unrestricted raw drum recording that's looped. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to start pushing it into ADClip and seeing what happens when you push it entirely too far. At that point, it'll be impossibly overly loud, and the bass will start clipping and grinding away. But you'll be a little surprised as to how far you can go. Like here, we're right up to where we would be clipping. You can't really hear a difference. Like here's unclipped. Now notice the high frequencies aren't becoming hard. That's because ADClip handles them in a special way. It's not only doing that anti-aliasing thing, it's also softening the onsets and departures from the clipping state. I don't think anybody else's clipper does that. Now, again, this is the reference. This is about what it sounds like. Now let's see how far we can go. Starting to hear the low bass flattening out. that's getting really flat. Now here you can hear the drums really getting smashed. But they're still standing out, even though everything else is flattened right up into the top of the range. And now we start to hear the bass grinding. Now this is impossibly too loud. Let's pull it back. See over here, this meter is still absolutely and totally slammed. This is like 2008 levels, maybe 2010 or 2011 levels. By comparison, you pull it right back, and this is roughly 70s levels, where you take it up a little higher. Now it's getting up to where some of the hottest peaks are getting close to full range. But on the whole, this is still, this is not commercial levels for the post-2000s. But what you can do with ADClip and in the post-loudness war age, bring it up until, this is density mode on span. I hardly recommend density mode and this meter. You can push it up. Until your drum heads tend to hit right up into the red range here. And then there's still space in other stuff. For instance, we can also pull this bass down a little bit. Doing stuff where it sits in this low range some of the time. Covering a wide range of motion in there. And let's see, pull it back just a little bit more. This is going to give you a big open sound when something like replay gain gets it. Because there's going to be spaces where it's not filling up the sound. Replay gain is going to grab something like this, turn it right up. It's going to be loud on people's iPhones or iTunes Radio or whatever it is. And the impact is going to jump right out, and it still hits up to the red zone. That's a high RMS reading. Pretty darn often. Just about with every beat, in fact. So this is how you mix for the post-loudness war era. And as you can see, you can do it using ADClip. And if you turn off ADClip, you're immediately getting clips. There's a certain hardness to it. There's a certain hardness to the highs at this level. This isn't even loudness war level. This is quieter. And you're peaking a good 3 dB or so. All you got to do is turn ADClip on. You're no longer peaking, you're no longer distorting the MP3 or whatever on playback. You're no longer distorting any AD converters because with the, we'll throw on the SSL meter again and open its interface. As you can see, turn off ADClip. You're immediately getting all forms of extreme distortion, but all you gotta do is turn it back on again. No analog clipping, no digital clipping. This is an oversampling meter that measures whether the output converter is going to clip either. And we can push this really hard. You can push this really hard and still not be clipping the SSL meter. That's a very good indication. And a lot of loudinators can't do this, by the way. You can try them and see. Oh, we just clipped it a tiny little bit. And we'll pull our funky little groove back down, and in fact we'll shut it off, because we're done doing that. So this is the most recent AirWindows plugin, ADClip 4. Existing owners of ADClip will get it as a free update. There's also another interesting thing about this relating to recent Apple developments, such as the new GarageBand, the new Logic, the new operating system, Mavericks. Now there's a lot of people who don't necessarily want to use Mavericks because some of its gatekeeper behaviors and things like that. And then there's also a lot of people who went and installed it because it was free. Mavericks and succeeding operating systems are going to start doing things like not letting you install stuff, or fighting with plugins that try to do things such as recording, making files, reading stuff, things like that. There's an interesting thing about AirWindows plugins. Like, as you can see, the thing about AirWindows plugins here, this has no controls. It has no presets. You can record presets, if you had any presets to make with it, you can record presets using this mechanism inside Logic itself. This is Logic doing it, it's not the plugin itself. Even the ones that do have controls, however, aren't recording the presets or their settings themselves. They are generic audio units without an interface. Because of that, all AirWindows plugins are sandbox safe. What that means is they're not trying to record a file. Now that is a side effect of the fact that all AirWindows plugins are, the copy protection is, I don't deserve to get ripped off, please, and also that you're supposed to get them from AirWindows.com, sold through Kagi Shareware, which I like them, they've done really nicely for me. And it's all part of me just running this small business and selling plugins that I sort of developed like a little, audio farmer, something like that. I'm a sort of crofter. Now, it's not safe for me to put out plugins that don't have, well, I mean, it's never been popular for me to put out plugins without fancy graphics code and saving presets and all that kind of stuff. I've done it anyway because I know the way I want to do them. They're very small and compact and they're very reliable. It's not safe for me to sell the plugins using only a demo mechanism, which is an entirely separate plugin that just mutes itself periodically. It never expires or runs out. You can always keep it around and check up on it, see whether you like the real one. But the real one doesn't have any mechanism in it to try to shut itself off or make itself not work if it doesn't think that you're trustworthy. I am not an iLock kind of guy. I don't work with stuff like that. I don't want stuff like that on my computer. I want my computer to work. And I want my customers' computers to work. And I care about that a lot. And for that reason, I continue to make all of these plugins operate on this basis. I'm basically trusting the industry out there to be able to have a space for me. For there to be people, sometimes people will say, oh, I'm only pirating it to see whether I like it. I'm like, fine, okay. If that is what you were able to do, then, put your money where your mouth is, man. You know where to find me. And the upside of this daring and possibly foolish decision of mine is that, unlike just about anybody else's plugins, since I'm not doing anything like copy protection or even a simple serial number or even saving a file somewhere on the hard disk, my stuff is sandbox safe. My stuff should be reliable into the future no matter what Apple does with its gatekeeper or whatever. As long as you can find the place to put it and know enough around your system to be able to install it, the system shouldn't shut you down, as it were. You'll be able to continue to work. I consider that a big advantage. So this is my way of saying I'm going to try to continue to be sandbox safe, Back in the day, I had to move from 32-bit to 64-bit. Now Logic 10 is only 64-bit, and all AirWindows plugins, including all the ones I ever did, and all the freebies, and all the old ones have been recompiled to 64-bit. Well, I'll tell you, if I have to, I will recompile everything with the resources necessary to flag them as sandbox safe, and that should help you deal with things like Gatekeeper. I'm going to be talking to Apple about this and working on how I'm supposed to make that happen. It should be possible to do it with just including a resource. As such, it should also be possible to do it keeping everything, including the compatibility with old PowerPC Macs. Because I really care about making, my users continue to be taken care of and able to operate whatever they're running, as long as it's audio units, as long as it's on Macs. Turns out there's a lot of work you have to do in order to keep all this kind of stuff going. But that is my little sort of afternote about what it's like developing plugins and what's going on in AirWindows land as I release ADClip and work on some other stuff while I'm at it. So I hope you guys like how this is working out. I'm going to do my level best to make sure that all of the AirWindows plugins that have ever been done will continue to be useful going forward and continue to be useful going back to an extent that I'm not sure that many people are doing. And with a bit of luck, I can keep doing this for a long, long, long time. I hope you like ADClip 4. I think it's the best ADClip I've ever done, and it will continue to be useful even when you're working in the post-loudness war era. It really has a very open, clean sound for your safety clipping up to 3 dB or more, or even catching a whole bunch more than that sometimes. So it should open things up for just like wildly mixing and throwing the faders around like crazy without having to worry about blowing away the tubas. And of course, that's what we all want to do. We want to have fun mixing and doing stuff. So how about I just let you go and do that? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.